ಸಂಸಾರದಾವ ನಲಲಿದಲೋಕ ತ್ರಾಣಾಯ ಕಾರುಣ್ಯ ಗಣ ಗಣತ್ವ ಪ್ರಾಪ್ತಸ್ಯ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಗುಣರ್ನವಸ್ಯ ವಂದೇ ಗುರೋ ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣರವಿಂದ महाप्रभु की तन नृत्य गीता वादित्र माध्यान मनसोर सेना रोमांचकंपा श्रुतरंग बाजो वंदे गुरो श्री चरणरविंद श्री विग्रहाराधन नित्यानाना शृंगारतन मंदिरमर्जनादो युक्तस्य भक्तां शरणयुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् चतुर्वेदा श्री भगवत् प्रसादो स्वादान तृप्ता नरिभक्त शंगा कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्ना प्रतीक्षणा स्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् निकुञ्जयोनो रतिकेलिसेद्यै ययालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदक्षादतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् साक्षादरित्वेन समष्टशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन्स्तु वांस्तस्य यस्य स्त्रीसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Narahari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnu Pada Pramhamsa Prajaka Acharya Shtota Shadashi Shrimatis Divine Grace Aparchana Vrinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Bhaktivedanta Institute Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Pramhamsa Prajaka Acharya Ashtota Shadashi Shrimatis Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Ki Jai. प्रेमी से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत दातार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री व्रजपुर में वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम चैत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री अयोध्या धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। समावेत भक्तवृंद की जय। Hari Nama Sankirtana Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Chilatan khana khalae. Hito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. बहिर्नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव कर कमलवरे नाखाम् अद्भुत शृङ्गां दालिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवदिर्ता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवदिर्ता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल भक्ति विघ्न विनाशन नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त प्रहलाद की जय गौर प्रेमानंदी
वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय
कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषी। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषी। जे तुम्हारा शरण लय तारा वांछा पूर्ण हो। कृपा करी करो तारे वृंदावनवासी। मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंजे दियो वास। नयने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि। ये निवेदन दारो साखीरानुगत करो। सेवा अधिकार दिए करो निज दासी। दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा होय। श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी। श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी। नमो नमः। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। ब्रह्महचदिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय जय प्रभुपा जय जय प्रभुपा जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्तवत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्तवत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्तवत्ताय नमो नमः
our dancer the Virgin. Please give the priest devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govind. Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be called independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature, literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activity and strength to chant holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna with auspicious religious activities, offering the Veda, fruity activities, karma, kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about God's holy name. 10. To not complete faith in chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachment to understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses. In order to achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer most humble obeisances on all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as deities who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Pavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Pudivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Sadhanam Sarvatamasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaraneka Kalaha Etadishi Tava Kripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudeva Mi Disham Ihajanina Nuragaha Trinata Pisani Jena Tarora Pisashnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Harihi Na Thanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jamanishware Bhavada Bhaktir Haituki Toi Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Man Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Turi Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Karadashru Daraya Vadanam Kadgada Rudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Vapur Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name ashrisha va padaratam pinnastu mam adarsanam marmhatam karotu va yatha tatha va vitathatu lampato mad prananathastu sa eva na paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all that does him killing for years, and extinguishes fire of conditional life, or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction for humanity in large, because it spreads a race and benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases ocean transcendent bliss, and enable us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grant all benediction human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast routes for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to commit wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Sahamananda Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor, yet somehow I fall in the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me out of this ocean of death, and place my one eyes in the lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes bedecked with tears, love flowing constant when I chant holy name, while my voice choke up over the hair, my body stand and recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling of separation causes the moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything, everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shastakam ki jai. Shri Mangala Aarti prayers ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Omritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Shakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishisha Shunyavadi Pajadate Shatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhani Videvi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Chala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dina Darine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sasha Vairagya Murtaye Vipalambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Mahamtamdaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gaura Bhava Bhumistwa Nirdeshta Sajana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhivacha Patitanam Pavne Pyo Vaishnave Pyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaurati Shen Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karna Sindho Dina Panto Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Srato Pangor Mama Manda Matekati Masarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Dvindaranya Kaupadumadaha Shimadra Nagara Singhasanasto Shimadratha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtaribi Sevimano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastitaha Karsham Venusaner Gopir Gopinatha Shi Yestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Mangala Aarti prayers ki jai. Shri Paramasamhita prayers ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadhyaradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukha Praviksha Lakshariteshu Surabhi Ravi Palayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevamana Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kanantamaravinda Talaya Taksham Parharavam Tamasam Sitam Putam Sundarangam Gantarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shopam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chantakara Savanamare Vamshi Ranangadam Panayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tipanka Lalitam Yata Prakasham Govindam Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganyasya Sakalendriya Vitimanti Pashanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimma Satu Chila Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Advaita Machota Manadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durapam Adurapam Atma Bhakta Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Pantastu Koti Shatavatsara Sampragamyu Vayuratapi Manaso Muni Pangavanam Sopyasti Yaprapada Simya Vichinta Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ekopya Sara Chaitum Jagatanta Kotim Yachakti Rasti Jagatanta Jayaya Tantaha Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manujastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahimasana Yana Bhusha Suktaryam Eva Nikama Patitaistu Vanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ananda Chimma Rasa Patipavitapi Stapi Evan Jarupataya Kalapihi Goloka Eva Nivasati Kilatma Buddho Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Premanjana Churuta Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sateva Hitayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundam Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ramadi Murtishu Kalanya Mena Tishtan Nanavatara Makaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes.
I worship Govinda, the primeval lord, who is adept in playing on his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with a head decked with peacock's feather, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose grateful 3-folded bending form of Shyamasundara is eternally manifest.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs in that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, who is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis, who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis, who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane extending over thousands of millions of years.
He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him and is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men, who are imbued with devotion, sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of our confidants, Sakhis. embodiments of the extension of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyam Sundar Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Narasimha, Vamana as his subjective portions.
Bhagavad Gita 7.1 Srinvatam swakata Krishna punya sravana kirtanaha Hriyanta histo hi abhadrani vidnoti suhrutsatam Nashtaprayesva abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki Tada rajastamo bhava kama lauba dayaschaye चेतयेतर अनाविदं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्चिद्यन्ते सर्वसमस्यां क्षीयन्ते च कर्माणि दृष्टा एवात्मनीश्वरे.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, act as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished.
When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus,
Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsyayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the signs of Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita 2.37 हतो वा प्राप्यासि स्वर्गं जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महिं तस्माद् उत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चया. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up with determination and fight. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight, for even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets.
Bhagavad Gita 2.38 Sukha dukkhe samakritve la 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 bho jayat yato tato yudaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsayasi. Translation: do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. Purport: Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or loss, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. that everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So, there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. It is said, Devarshi Bhutapta Nam Pitranam Na Kinkaro Nayam Ranischa Rajan Sarvatmanaya Saranam Saranyam Gatho Mukundam Parithyaya Kartam. Anyone who has completely surrendered onto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. Bhagavad Gita 11.5.41. This is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses.
Text 39, chapter 2. Esha te abhita sankye buddhi yogi tva imam shrunu buddhya yukto ya parda karma bandham prahasyasi. Translation. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Partha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Purport. According to the Nirukti or the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul, and yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting, because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them, and happiness derived from by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper, and he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna, and this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya. In terms of the Nirukti dictionary, this Sankhya has nothing to do with the Sankhya philosophy of atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha or the Supreme Lord is active, and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti or nature and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion. And it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. Sisyaste aham sadimam tvam prapannam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. This Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion doesn't take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains to this stage of Buddhi Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does He award the pure knowledge of devotion in love. In that way, the devotee can reach Him easily in the ever blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the Buddhi Yoga mentioned in this verse is a devotional service of the Lord, and the word Sankhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sankhya Yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not therefore misunderstand that the Sankhya Yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya, nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here, Sankhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all Bhakti Yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Sankhya Yoga prudag bala pravadanti na panditaha. Of course, atheistic Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with the Bhakti Yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness, in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically by the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification, for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. Text 40. Text 40, chapter 2. Neha Bikrama Nasasti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpamapi asya dharmasya Trayate mahato bayat.
In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Purport. Activity in Krishna conscious or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed, otherwise the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not a loss, even if his work is in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%, whereas in material activity with 100% success there is no profit. Ajamila performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Charanambujam harer bhajan apakkota patet tato yadi yatra kwa vabhadram nabud amusyakim kovarda apto bhajatam swadharmatam tam.
If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or as the Christians say, what profit a man if he gain the whole world yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness. Even after the loss of the body, at least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again and being as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family, aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness.
2.41 व्यावसायात्मिका बुद्धिर एकः कुरुनन्दन बहुशाखा हि अनन्तश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनः.
Translation: Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasatmika. I read it, bro. No problem. Translation. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 22.62 states, Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kahe Shruddha Nishchaya Krishne Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Haya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world, with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatmasu durlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches, so by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada Nagagi kutopi Dhyayanstu vamstasya Yasya sri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts.
Yamimam purushitam vacham pravadantya avipisheta vedavadarita partha nanyad ashad asti vadinaha. Kamatmana Svargapara Janma Karma Palam Pradam Kriya Vishesha Bahulam Bogashwarya Gatim. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous in sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Purport. In general, people in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planet, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifice. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with the poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama Somam Amrita Abhuma and Akshayam Havai Chaturmasya Yagna Shriktam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the Somarasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on the earth, some are very eager to have Somarasa, to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratification. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies, the Vedic sacrifice. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything of Vedic sacrifice other than the heavenly planet pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Karana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women and having a profuse supply of Somarasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world.
Text 2.44.
Bhogeshwarai Prasaktanam Daya Prahitra Chetasam Vyavasyamaka Buddhir Samadhuna Vidyate. Translation. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the result determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti says Samyag Adhiyate Smin Atma Tattva Nirtatmya. Well, when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in Samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy.
Bhagavad Gita 2.45. Trayagunya Visaya Veda Nistraygunya Bhavarjuna Nitya Satvosto Niryogaksema Atmavan. Translation. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for future results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with future activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jignasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warm, and by tolerating such dualities become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna.
Chapter 2, Text 46. Yavan Ardha Udapani Sarvata Samplutodaki Tavan Sarvesu Vedeshu Brahmanasya Vijanataha. Translation. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purpose of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport. The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karmakanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15:15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15.7. The living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 33 chapter, 7th verse as follows. Aho bata swapacho to gariyan yaj jihvagre vardate namatubhyam te pustapaste jihvu shashnurarya brahmanachur nama grananti ete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala dog eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals and studied the Vedic literatures many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all of the Vedanta and the Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna, and the highest Vedantist is a great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. Chapter 2, text 47. Karmani evadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbur mate sangostva karmani.
Translation. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoyed in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority. And inaction means not performing one's prescribed duty. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as obligation in terms of the spiritual injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage, therefore such work is not auspicious. Everyone has their proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna.
Text 248. Yoga sata kuru karmani sangam tyatva dhananjaya siddhi asiddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Translation. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory or Krishna's concern, Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness, only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him.
For 2.49. Durena hiavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddha sharanam anvicha kripano palahetavaha.
Translation. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches, which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord.
Bhagavad Gita 2.50. Buddhi yukto jahati ha ube sukre duskrute tasmad yogaya yujvasya yoga karma sukausalam. Translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Purport. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action.
Text 51, Chapter 2. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam taktva manishinah janma bandha vinirmukta padam gachanti anamayam. Translation. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death, attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. Purport. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 58th verse says, Samashrita ye padapallavaplavam mahat padam punya yaso murare bhavam budir vasta padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham.